Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here Tuesday, April 8th. Happy National Championship to all you Florida Gators fans out there. Very exciting. What an unbelievably stressful run. Down 10 to Texas Tech, 9 to Auburn, 12 last night to Houston, but the Gators got it done. Saw a lot of Houston Texans fans tweeting about that game too, which made it even that much sweeter, right? So, Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously this is a Jaguars show, they have a really, really important NFL draft coming up. And you can say it's important for every team, but for this regime, this organization, to take a step in the right direction, I think that they have to nail this draft in some regard because they didn't take any swings in free agency that scream like this is a long-term fix. It was mostly kind of Band-Aids. It was mostly kind of replacement level starters or guys that are just going to bring the right type of energy, right type of attitude to the field, but into the locker room, but not necessarily guys that bring championship level or let's say all pro, Pro Bowl, upper echelon level play to their specific position. So they need to find those type of blue chip core pieces in the draft. And they of course have some of those guys, right? Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker ascending, Tyson Campbell when healthy, right? Foye Oluokun, very, very good football player. Couple young tackles. So they have talent, right? But they need to put their stamp on this because this is a team that still has some holes. And today I wanted to look at three positions that I'm going to pretty much stamp that the Jaguars will draft early. I feel very confident based on what we've seen so far, the roster composition, and kind of that combined with what we've seen James Gladstone and the Rams do over the last few years. And the reason I don't want to just fully lean into what the Rams have done, even though James Gladstone was a huge part of especially the last two draft class, 2024 and 2023, in that process, is because this is a new group. It's not James Gladstone and Les Snead and Sean McVay. It's James Gladstone, Liam Cohen, and Tony Baselli to a certain extent, right? Like this is a different regime. This is a different group. It's not going to operate the exact same way. Do I think that they will have some similar tendencies? Potentially, but one thing I think is really cool about James Gladstone and Liam Cohen has been so good at adjusting to his personnel and adjusting what he wants to do offensively to his personnel. I think the Rams and James Gladstone have always been able to stay fluid as well with their strategy. Like it's changed over time. And I don't think that they're going to have a specific strategy here in Jacksonville for team building other than they're going to want, again, the intangibly rich guys that James Gladstone talks about, good football players that fit what they're trying to do. I think they're going to be able to identify that well. But I think if they feel like they can lean in this direction this offseason based on the talent available or based on the lack of talent available in a certain spot or the certain types of talent, they can do that. And I think that they can just kind of stay fluid year to year while having alignment, which I think is pretty cool, right? Like just as examples, like the Rams, when they started out, they were this outside zone team that, relied on Todd Gurley and this running game and the play action and all that stuff. And they still have some of that to their game, but in recent years, they adjusted in a big way by just going and getting these big interior offensive linemen and becoming a gap power team and getting running backs that fit that mold. And so that was a pivot point that the Rams showed. And then you also seen the Rams again early on, back when they traded for Jalen Ramsey and in that kind of run, that kind of era, they were just trading away their picks. I mean, they weren't having first round picks for years. And then you see the last couple years, they get more heavily involved in the draft and having more picks, and they've done a really good job with that too. And they've shown different ways of building this thing out. So that's just something to keep in mind, and I think that's pretty cool. So I don't think that you can necessarily look at what the Rams have done and say they have a specific way of doing things in terms of how they're trying to build the team other than intangibly rich and being fluid. So I will say, based on the Rams process, based on the fluidity, based on the players available, based on what the Jaguars have shown us so far, I've got these three positions I feel pretty darn good about. And we're going to get into them. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear. So, wide receiver. I feel very confident that the Jaguars will draft a wide receiver on the first 2 days of the draft, first 3 rounds. I mean, I guess it's possible it could be round 4, but I'm not hedging my bets here. I think that they're going to take one on the first 2 days of the draft because you look at 4 picks in the first 2 days. The Rams, when Gladstone was there, their 2 best receivers were not like early round picks, right? Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, but that doesn't mean that they didn't take swing. Like Tutu Atwell was a 2nd round pick for the Rams, right? I think they're going to take a swing. And the reason I think they're going to take a swing is because they have a young quarterback who obviously has a star receiver, has the kind of offensive engine in Brian Thomas Jr., but outside of Brian Thomas Jr., they have basically no receiver depth long term. Yes, you do have De'Ami Brown this year, 1-year contract. And he's really probably a 3. I think that's the way they paid him. Yes, Gabe Davis is on the roster. I think he will be a cap cut following the 2025 season. Parker Washington, obviously on the team through 2026 from a contract standpoint, but I don't think that you're moving into the future just betting on Parker Washington being your 2nd guy or your 3rd guy. Maybe he can be, but I don't think that's the bet that you make this April in this draft, right? You can see how it plays out over the next couple years, and maybe he can be that guy for you. But I think you've got to go get a number 2. And if you don't, like, what are we really doing here? I would be really shocked based on the moves they made. Because, again, they were going to release. They traded Christian Kirk to the Texans. They released Devin Duvernay. They released Josh Reynolds. They released one of their highest volume receivers, and Evan Ingram. Even with Brian Thomas Jr. probably being a target hog and getting, like 150 plus targets, there's still more than enough targets to go around, and you need guys who can help you move the chains, who can help you stay on target, who can help you score touchdowns. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower in the receiving department right now. Certainly not long term, and probably not for 2025. So I think they're going to fix that. And there's a lot of good candidates for them to fix it with, right? I really think so. My second one, pretty much these two are in a tier of their own, wide receiver and defensive line. And the reason I think defensive line is so obvious is because you look long term. They could get out of the Eric Armstead contract after this year. They could get out of the Devon Hamilton contract after this year. Mason Smith is a nice piece to build around. But beyond that, what else is there? Yeah, Jordan Jefferson, Tyler Lacey. But it's basically the future right now is Mason Smith and nothing else. And there's that combined with the fact that they did nothing in free agency. And they've talked about it, right? James Gladstone has talked about it. Liam Cohen has talked about it. I think defensive line is definitely happening. And I'm talking interior defensive line. I think they're going to draft a guy. And then you also combine that with the fact that the Rams have been so heavily invested over the last couple years when James Gladstone has taken more of a bigger role in the defensive front, right? And they've knocked it out of the park with Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner. So those are the top two. We're going to get to one more that I think I'm very confident they're going to address. And then after that, we're going to look at some that I think that they'll address, but I'm not going to like put my stamp on it. So we're going to get into that. But first, got to remind you all about Underdog Fantasy. You ever watch sports, find yourself wishing there was a way to get into the game? Now there is with Underdog to play. Choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, i.e. points, strikeouts, touchdowns, and more. I did not do well with the national title, but I did do well in my heart with that W, right? Y'all already know I'm selecting Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner to go higher on points. Got to go with my guys. Just got to do it. Download the Underdog app and sign up now using promo code DuvalDaily to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy. Join the fun when you sign up with promo code DuvalDaily. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. So I think one final stamp it. Edge. The Jaguars just don't have edge depth. And yeah, Trayvon Walker, 5th-year option. That's awesome. Josh Hines-Allen under contract. Could you see Abdullah maybe take a step forward? Sure. Miles Cole, maybe. Sure. But you've got to get some real producers at edge. Edge 3, edge 4. Got to get this coffee in. It was a late night, y'all. A bit of a late night, celebrating, having a good time, and a very early morning. So, edge. Again, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Bucks, teams that have actually beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? What do? Pass rush in waves. They have just dominant defensive fronts, and I think based on what you've seen the last couple of years with the Rams, with James Gladstone leading that in a big way, they've shown a heavy investment in both the interior and edge, and I think they like penetration style players. Will that remain the same with Anthony Campanile, defensive coordinator? I think so. I think they're going to try to get guys that can affect the backfield, affect the quarterback. And so edge, I wouldn't be surprised. Really, I would be a little surprised round 2, but anytime after that, I wouldn't be shocked. First, second round would be a little surprising, but after that wouldn't surprise me at all. I honestly think the most likely scenario is defensive line at 5. If not, certainly in the second round. Interior defensive line. Wide receiver in the first 3 picks. Edge in the first 4 picks. That's how I'm viewing it right now. Now, there's also some positions I think that they're going to address. One that stands out at the top kind of for me, corner, is really interesting because I think that they need an outside corner still. I think that right now they have Tyson Campbell, who's obviously a starter outside for them. Jordan Lewis and Jarian Jones really have played more nickel, and I know that they've talked about both guys being able to play outside potentially. And you saw Jarian Jones be fairly effective as an outside corner, and he has the physical traits to play outside. You saw him play at Ole Miss and early on at Florida State outside, and at times during his final year at Florida State outside. And then you saw Jordan Lewis, his whole rookie season basically played outside, and he's had to fill in outside during injury situations for the Cowboys. So it's not like they haven't shown that they can a little bit, but I think relying on that full time and that being your bet at corner and not having any hedges on that bet would surprise me a little. I just think you need another outside guy. I really do. So that's a position I'm expecting them to address. And then some that I think that they could, that they might, that they should. I think safety. It would be surprising if they don't. They do have some numbers at that position. They signed Eric Murray. They still have Darnell Savage, Andrew Winger, Daniel Thomas, Antonio Johnson. So it would be a crowded room, but I think that this is a good safety class overall, and there's going to be some guys they could go get in the mid rounds that could really help them out, even potentially late round. I think running back, this is just such a deep running back class, like really incredible amount of guys that I think can make some sort of impact at the NFL level, whether it be guys that have like the total package, or really good pass protectors, really good pass catchers, just good runners, explosive, physical, you name it. There's a guy that can kind of fit what you're looking for at the running back position in this class. And then you look at Travis Etienne going into the final year of his deal. I think if Etienne and Bigsby were both like multiple years left on their deal, you might not be looking at running back. But with Etienne going into the final year of his deal, I think that you absolutely are looking at running back. And I think both Etienne and Bigsby can have much better seasons in Jacksonville this year than they did last year, just based on coaching, offensive scheme, running scheme, blocking, all that stuff. But I think it's also fair to say they need to prove themselves a little bit more this year. And again, if Etienne has the type of year he's capable of having, which he had big numbers in 2022 and 2023 before the 2024 season, he might get paid. I mean, he is an explosive back. We'll see how that plays out. Interior offensive line, I think that they will take at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the first 4 rounds, first 6 picks, first 4 picks, really, first 3 rounds. We'll see what happens there. I just think you got 2 guys that are probably more stopgap options than long-term options here this offseason. I think Ezra Cleveland, you can get out of his contract following 2025 if you want to. And I've talked about it. I think the Jaguars have 3 guys that are passable on the interior, but you really want to try to find someone, to me, that is like a linchpin, somebody that is going to be a core player moving forward. And you're hoping you have that at tackle with Anton and Walker. I think that they probably do with at least one of those guys. I don't think they have that on the interior. So they just need to get somebody who can be a high-impact guy, I think. Linebacker, yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know what their thoughts are really on the linebackers right now. I know that Foye Oluokun is an expensive linebacker. I know that if Devin Lloyd is going to if they're going to pick up the 5th-year option with Devin Lloyd, which I would predict that they probably don't, that would be expensive. How do they view these guys? Do they like Ventrell Miller? I could kind of see Ventrell Miller being a pretty good blitzer, just downhill thumper type of guy. Chad Muma. It's interesting. It really is, to say the least, with these guys at linebacker. And I know Jags fans would be like, linebacker's the last position we need to address. And maybe the Jags feel that way too. I just don't have any indication either way. I do think that tight end is a good position to look at here this year. At some point, again, I think it's a deep tight end class. I think the Jaguars are going to use a lot of tight ends. And I don't necessarily look at Johnny Munt or Hunter Long as long-term guys. I think Brenton Strange is, but I think that it's possible Munt, Long aren't around for a really long time, and so you go get a tight end you can develop and have on this roster with Brenton Strange over the next several years. So that's kind of my look at the draft, and really wanted to put my stamp. I think wide receiver, defensive line, and edge are going to be addressed fairly early for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then there's some other positions we have questions about, but you just look at the way the offseason has played out, and the Jaguars have a lot less numbers at wide receiver. The one guy that they did sign, it's only a 1-year deal. So I think wide receiver is absolutely happening. Defensive line, They didn't touch it. They didn't add an edge or an interior guy. So you can just kind of follow the tea leaves there. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.